Avoid doing this if you go to Japan. As someone who grew up in Japan and moved to America, I'm happy to see Japanese culture getting popular. But when I came across the weeb culture on the internet, I was like, oh my god. So today I wanted to expose the truth of what Japanese people actually think about weeb culture so that you could avoid any unwanted mistakes. First truth is that a weeb that's actually Japanese is called otaku in Japan. And otakus love their own culture more than you love Japanese culture. Otakus invented the anime pillows, figurines, cosplays. They've been doing it for years before the wave of the weebs came. Because of that, Japanese people actually don't think that it's that weird if someone is obsessed over anime because otaku's been doing it for years. But that does not mean that everyone in Japan is an otaku or loves otakus. So let me open up the truth of what Japanese people think about anime-obsessed otakus so that you have an inkling of what they would think about weebs. So otaku's origins dates back to the 1980s with the boom of the mobile Gundam suits and figurines that came with that. And also along that time, anime and manga were getting more and more popular. But I would have to mention otakus are not just fans of anime, they could be fans of Japanese pop idols, games, and maybe even trains. And otaku literally means your house or someone's house, so it indirectly means someone that's obsessed over a certain topic and would stay in their house and study and watch and just obsess over it in their house kind of thing. Unfortunately, in the beginning, otakus were seen as a little bit of a social outcast. They were a little weird, you know, they don't leave the house often and they're taking pictures of trains and other weird stuff, so they were like, what are they up to, the general public? I would say it's kind of like if you mentioned you like Naruto. I like Naruto back in 10 years ago, even 10 years ago, and even in America, you would have gotten people saying like, what the hell is a Naruto? I don't even know what that is. I don't even want to get into that. But now, even in America, everyone's like, Rasengan! I love Rasengan! And I've heard someone that literally made fun of me a couple years ago about watching anime say that Attack on Titan is an absolute human masterpiece that must be studied across generations. So basically, anime has come a long way in America, and I'm gonna show you how it came to be in Japan. So slowly but surely, Japanese people did begin to appreciate what otakus brought to the table, especially along the lines of anime and manga. Even certain idols, I think some of the city pop music you might know from the 80s, that's from the idol boom that came with otakus kind of being the main fans of those idols. I think in the 1980s, the real OG animes were like the Dragon Ball, Fist of the North Star, of course the Ghibli getting popular, like Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, those were getting popular. And even anime movies like Akira were so popular that it was actually one of the first movies that came to the West. So those ones, because they got so popular, it spread from the otakus to the actual common public, and they were like, you know what, anime is, maybe it's not so bad. Then the 90s came with following the strong origin of the 80s anime. We got Rurouni Kenshin, Dragon Ball Z, Detective Conan. It's not that popular in the US, but it's really popular in Japan still to this day. Conan, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, and even Neon Genesis Evangelion. The movie for otakus and by otakus, Neon Genesis Evangelion. And I'm sure some of these you've already sort of heard of. Then of course the 2000 came with Naruto, Bleach, Fullmetal Alchemist, and all that. Now you probably even watch it currently. So by now, otakus stopped getting categorized as some weirdos, but people who are passionate about certain things that could really bring a lot of value to the society with all these popular movies and shows that they, I guess, supported, not necessarily created, but a lot of them, like especially Neon Genesis, he classifies himself as otaku. So a lot of the creators are even otakus and learn from that. However, obviously there are some cons to what Japanese people think about otakus in general, unfortunately. So in Japan, there's a prevalence of hikikomori, which are basically shut-ins that really just truly never leave the house and just completely avoids any contact with the broader society of Japan. And the truth is, yes, otakus, your house being the name for them, do typically stay in the house. The thing is, hikikomori, like I said, truly do not engage with any societal obligations. And because otakus tend to be introverted, they kind of get generalized to being a hikikomori, which is not necessarily true. Obviously, there can be some overlaps, but otakus still do contribute. You know, they might not contribute the same way, you know, but you know, you see them out there taking pictures of trains, and that's a contribution. Trains helped to build Japanese society to the place that it is now. Shinkansen, it's bullet trains, big deal. Like personally, tend to be a little bit more introverted, so I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, having your own space and such, or engaging in your own personal activities, but hikikomoris do lack with any participation, like 100% no participation with society, so that does cause a problem which the general public was seeing it as a, you know, a little bit of issue of the society. And with that, otakus are generally seen as someone who lacks social skills or social cues, and in society like Japan, you know, they're not gonna necessarily like that. But after COVID lockdowns, you know, I'm sure some of you lost a lot of social skills, and you know, you probably started watching more anime, so maybe in Japan, I saw it internationally, but especially in Japan, maybe otakus became more the population of Japan that are otakus became more increased a lot. That would be my guess. Is that good for Japan? I don't know, but you know what? I personally want to see anime thrive, so I have no problem with that. So I think a lot of people of Japan eventually have a little bit of otaku inside of them. Like, it's not too much of a taboo anymore over the couple decades. So Matsu, what does this mean for someone that might be a little weeaboo or love Japanese culture and planning on going to Japan? What does it mean for me? Like I mentioned, if you say, anime ga daisuki desu, Naruto to Shingeki no Kyojin 毎日見てます, they will probably just say, あ、そう、マジで、俺も好きだよ. Because anime, for the most part, and especially those big ones, are already popular in Japan, you're not gonna get that little subculture connection you might get in America, where you're like, oh, you like anime too? I like anime. But in Japan, like I mentioned, generally everyone likes anime, so it's not like a little spark that you might have hoped for. Like, obviously, Japanese person will think, oh, that's kind of cool that you know anime and, you know, you've been watching it as someone that's not from Japan. But it might be kind of the same way if a Japanese person would say to you, like, Taylor Swift 知ってる? Do you know Taylor Swift? Star Wars はやっぱ面白いよね. And you will be like, yeah, I like Taylor Swift. I like the what's that song called? You are Juliet, I am Romeo. You know, you will be like, I like that song. You're not gonna go crazy over Taylor Swift. The unfortunate fact is that if you talk to most Japanese person, they will be more interested for you to talk about your own culture. Like if you're from America, they will be more interested for you to talk about what Ariana Grande's newest song is about than talking about Japanese people's own culture for the most part. You know, they want to know what you're up to, just like the same way how you want to know what Japanese culture is about from a Japanese person. A Japanese person might be wanting to know what American culture is like from someone that's American. So, you know, you kind of gotta expect that, like, culture difference is uniquely interesting somewhat. But overall, they will appreciate you mentioning that you like Japanese culture and anime culture, because a lot of Japanese people, because they don't really leave Japan most of the time, they don't even know how popular Japanese culture and anime is, so they'll be like, oh my god, really? You know Demon? Why do you even watch Demon, Kimetsu no Yaiba? Why do you even watch One Piece? Why do you even watch? And you'll be like, we do watch them. And maybe that could spark up a conversation. But what I would actually suggest, and it's not gonna be easy, but if you want to vibe with a Japanese person, you know, you want to get that real conversation about anime and the culture, you might want to talk with an otaku in Japan. Because otaku, like I mentioned, generally actually are obsessively interested in anime, just like you might be there, it might have a genuine connection that you've been wanting for. But obviously it's gonna be a lot harder to make them open up. They're probably not gonna speak English, and they're probably gonna avoid you for the most part. So you gotta find out a way. One of the best places I think you might have heard of is Akihabara. It's the major hub. It's the castle. It's the home base for the otakus. They got shining lights. They got like figurines everywhere, shops with figurines everywhere. They got those game centers where you could act like you're in the Gundam. They got maid cafes. You know, it's a little paradise for weebs and otaku. So there, maybe the weebs and the otakus could unite to form a new weebtakus. Like, I'm not sure how you're gonna start up a conversation, but maybe you have bought a little figurine, you go to a maid cafe, you sit next to an otaku, and then you start up a conversation while eating a little Japanese omurice. It could work. And otakus would actually enjoy talking about anime, and this is because, unfortunately, most Japanese people aren't necessarily, anime is not necessarily the top of their mind, and don't necessarily want to talk about it all the time. Now, a few warnings I would say if you are a weeb or someone who likes Japanese culture that's going to Japan is that don't say things like where the subtitles at, or ask too much direct questions to a Japanese person, because overall Japanese person are more shy and wants, you know, you still gotta show some respect so that they don't feel too intimidated. So if you ask a question and they're not really answering it, just, you know, kind of move along. However, anime is truly popular in Japan. Like, one of the biggest movies this year, last year, were all like Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen, all like Detective Conan. So the most popular movies are always anime, like all the time. It actually is truly part of the Japanese culture, so that is a fact. And everyone knows anime, and if you walk around, even if it's not in Akihabara, you'll see anime posters and advertisements everywhere. And you know, there are otakus that will vibe and really talk about it with you if you could find one and make a tomodachi, so go for it, but not too much, because obviously be respectful. And like and subscribe to join the Nakama, and peace.